Hi, everyone. Today we have a very special episode for the Pro Series. I'm so excited. We have Ward Schraeder from HGTV's Bargain Mansions, which he hosts it with Tomorrow Day, his daughter, which they go around Kansas City area and restore homes for new families to love it and buy them. He also has an Instagram TV YouTube series called Working with Ward. And I'm just so thankful for Ward to come sit down with me and chat about his life and his expertise of remodeling and home value. Let me just bring him on real quick.
Can you hear me, Eric?
Hey, Ward, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today and talking about your life and the show and your businesses and being part of my Pro Series.
Well, thank you for asking. It's nobody ever gets tired of talking about themselves, do they?
Sometimes a little awkward.
Actually, I think maybe I am. I'm doing it quite a little bit lately, and it's kind of interesting. How's the audio here and visual and all that for you?
It's great. You have a beautiful scenery behind you.
I'm at my place in Colorado this week.
Much better than my family room in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. It was so hot and miserable in Kansas the last week, 2 weeks maybe, that I just thought, well, I've got 4 or 5 days between filming. I'm going to give it a chance and get out here and see if we can enjoy ourselves for a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm so thankful for you to joining on to my Pro Series. I'm a huge fan of your shows, Bargain Mansions on HGTV, and your Working with Ward show that you have on Instagram TV and YouTube TV, or on YouTube.
Yeah, just getting started with that. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, you kind of just go around. I watched the tree stand one today that you made out of carpet.
Oh, yeah?
That one was pretty cool.
Well, good. I'm glad you liked it. Everybody has some favorites, and some of them when I do them, I think, gosh, everybody knows how to do this, but I guess it's not true because most of the things I'm doing right now are requests from people. So on my Instagram account, maybe a month ago, I put out a request that said, what would you like me to do? And show you how to do maybe. And so that's just what I'm following up on is things that people had problems or were scared to try on their own or whatever. And so, so that was just one of them.
That's pretty cool.
I think the one I liked best so far was the one where I redid the chairs, the lawn chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just seems so appropriate because we throw so much of that stuff away. I mean, every place you go, every box store in the world sells outdoor furniture, and it's all made with that aluminum frame and the plastic inserts or the woven inserts, and they tear after 4 or 5 years, and it just seemed like a terrible waste. And I just thankfully just came up with that idea and we got it done. I really like them.
Absolutely, and it's expensive too, buying all new outdoor furniture.
Oh yeah, and the vinyl is almost impossible to replace, both economically and physically. I've tried it before, and it's by the time you're done, you want to throw them all away, getting that insert out of there.
Absolutely. How long have you been in the remodeling business?
I have been in some form of construction, I think, really my whole life. When I was a young kid, I of course grew up on a farm. My dad's place in. I'm sorry, did I lose you there for a second?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. I grew up on my dad's place, and we had lots of construction going on there all the time. It was so far out in the middle of nowhere that we either did it ourselves or it didn't get done. So that was my first education in construction. Then when I went to college, I put myself through college working various construction jobs, including learning how to be a welder and fabricating welding products and all those kinds of things, or welded products. And so when I got out on my own, I always wanted to be in real estate. And so through one way or another, I've been in housing or commercial real estate almost my whole life.
Oh, really? Are you an agent?
No, I am not. I've never done projects for other people. All of my projects have been for myself. So I started off, my first house I bought in the 80s. You could buy a home and it didn't have to be finished, and lenders were a lot more amenable to that sort of thing. And so I bought a house that was maybe 2/3 done. And I just, the story I tell, and it's true, is that we had a budget, and we had $50 a month extra. Now, $50 was probably like, I don't know, $500 now, but so I'd go out and buy $50 worth of 2x4s, and I'd finish a room, and $50 worth of sheetrock next month, and $50 worth of paint or whatever. And we got that house done, and I learned how to do it because I didn't have any choice. I couldn't afford to hire anybody. And the next house I built 90% of it by myself. No, probably 80. Don't want to exaggerate too much. And then started doing commercial buildings along the way. Bought a building that was in distress back in the 80s, and it was an office building. I think it was 25,000 square feet, and I turned that into an office complex and rented it out and managed it. And that actually led me in then to one of my primary careers, which was owning and operating small to medium-sized hospitals. That building had been owned by a group of doctors who wanted to build their own hospital. And we became friends through that project because it turned out so successful for all of us. And in the end, we were actually having a celebration cocktail, and they said, "Why don't you build us a surgical hospital?" And of course, I don't have a clue what that is at the time, but I said, "I've done kind of everything else. What is it?" And they told me, and a month later we were under construction. And since then I've developed and constructed something over 30 different facilities, both hospitals, surgery centers, medical office buildings, and that sort of thing. And we even created a management company that manages the hospitals and the surgery centers and does the billing and collections and staffing and training and purchasing of equipment and all that sort of thing. So that turned into quite a little business for me. And from that, I ventured into more construction of commercial medical office buildings. And so, yeah, it just one form of construction or another my whole life.
Yeah, you kind of have both sides, the real estate and like the commercial office building type of work.
Exactly. Got into rental apartments years ago when happened to walk into a deal where a guy was tired of running them, and he had lived on his deferred maintenance. And I short story is that I put together a handful of people, and we invested and bought 34 of his units, I think it was. And we subsequently remodeled every single one of them. We still own all of those and rent them out. And just one thing leads to another. In my life, when I look around, and I really try to encourage others to do the same, is there, and especially my children, is that there are opportunities everywhere. And you just got to look at things once in a while and be willing to take a risk. I've always been surprised how many people have worked with me or for me that have been highly intelligent young people, and I couldn't convince them to go into business for themselves. And I've always, I guess since I was a boy, I knew I wanted to be in business for myself one way or another. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm the same exact way. You mentioned your kids, and obviously you host the Bargain Mansions on HGTV with your daughter Tamara Day. Did she kind of just grasp onto your tactics when she was little, trying to be a construction worker too, or because she does a lot in the show, like she knows a lot about the homes and everything about it?
So I started with a modest beginning and didn't have enough money to really hire workers. And so all of those homes that I built and we lived in, or some of the smaller commercial stuff in the beginning, On weekends or when the kids weren't in school, I would bring them down and we would remove carpeting, put up sheetrock, paint walls, do whatever. And I always have to tease her that I wasn't sure that any of the children were learning anything because they really didn't want to be there with me too bad. But it seems like all of them have learned a lot about construction. And with the exception of one son, all of them have at one time or another remodeled or bought and remodeled or constructed a home and done it themselves or with some guidance from me on their first ones. And so they were learning, and Tamara took that to a higher level by when she got married. They wanted a nice house, and it was kind of 07-ish. And they were they had 3 children, I think, then, and so they wanted a bigger house. And she bought one that had been repossessed and unfortunately had been very poorly taken care of. And so in the process of refurbishing that, she learned a ton about how to remodel a home and what it takes on her own. And I suppose I gave her a little advice here and there, but mostly she did it herself. And that turned into actually kind of bargain mansions. By doing that and then some subsequent things, she developed somewhat of a reputation around town. And that's how the producers found her. And I have to admit, I was pretty skeptical of it. I really thought this was, the Tamara, somebody wants you to pay them to take a video and, nothing will happen from this. And she said, no, they're not asking for anything. They just want to do a video. And I said, well, can I stop by and see? And she said, sure, come on by. It's such and such date. And I drove up that day and they were just sitting there talking, and I started talking, and they said, well, why don't you sit down here with Tamara and talk for a while? And I guess they saw something in the relationship that they liked, and that's really how the show started.
Oh, so you weren't even like part of the original scene until you came to the house, like part of the show?
They had not asked. No, I was not. I was not anticipated in being in the show at all. In fact, they were interviewing her brother, who was independently manufacturing furniture, and he didn't really want to do it too badly. And so then they decided that, well, here's this father-daughter duo that has worked together for off and on their whole lives. And they decided that was a show. So that's how we got on television, and it's taken off from there pretty dramatically now.
I mean, it's meant to be, because I mean, your relationships on TV is so nice. I mean, most of HGTV, they don't have the father-daughter relationship as the main setting or the main characters on the show, which is really cool to watch your show like that. Plus, you're flipping much bigger homes than a lot of people are on that show, which has a lot more detail to it. You kind of like split it up into 2 phases, which is really cool. So it's 2 different episodes per house. I just watched your lodge one. It was on the lake.
Yeah.
That one was incredible.
That was a lot of house. That was about 8,000 square feet. That ceiling in the main entrance was 27 foot tall. I walked in there and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is just so overdone. And I really, I'm probably better at spatial concepts than Tamara, but not much. She's really growing dramatically in that area. But I would say that only because of more experience. And I just almost couldn't see what you could do with that place that would be within a budget that would make it work. But it turned out beautiful.
It did. It was incredible. That kitchen was that was the one with the black kitchen, like all black cabinets. That was beautiful. Do you find it hard working with family, especially on TV?
Not really. I mean, sure. She disagrees with my thoughts. I disagree with her thoughts from time to time. But at the end of the day, I don't really think that either one of us go home mad. I think we go home having worked together and enjoying the time. TV's kind of demanding though. When the filming is really nice because it's unscripted. So we'll walk. The director will say, "Walk into this room, and you guys just talk about it. Give us some ideas about the fireplace, or use your imagination, I guess, whatever it would be." And so we just go in there and talk like we would if it was the first time we'd ever seen it, and what we wanted to do with it. And that's where a lot of the ideas come from. As far as color selection and actual decorating with marble or granite or some of those things, I pretty much leave it 100% that up to Tamara. She asks my opinion about colors once in a while and how things would go up and whether it would structurally be good or bad or whatever. But by and large, I have to give her credit for having the beauty. So it's kind of the beauty and the beast. Is I do the demo and a lot of the construction, and I personally like the finish, but I do like what she asked me to do. It's very nice. So no, I guess the answer to your question is we don't really ever have much disagreement. It's pretty easy. Now I wouldn't say that with all of my children. We would bat heads once in a while, but Tamara and I are pretty close. Not that I'm not close with all of them. Don't take that wrong. You've got 4 personalities in our 4 children, and I love them all dearly. Tamara's just one that thinks a lot like I do.
Yeah, most like her. Absolutely. So during this whole COVID-19 pandemic, are you still shooting? Or did you have to pause the shooting and the remodels?
We have had to pause off and on if someone was exposed, but the whole crew has been tested. I don't know if I can say more than once, but they've certainly been tested, including Tamara and I. Everybody so far has turned out negative, and everybody wears masks and gloves, and of course, then Tamara and I sometimes are not. But we're the only ones, and there's plenty of social distancing going on at that point. The cameramen back up 10, 15 feet in video. It has slowed things down. So construction is considered a necessary business, and so it's continued on. However, they required social distancing too. So instead of having 10 guys on a house working, we can only have 3 or 4 at a time. And so that slowed things down a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, everybody's been aware and patient and cognizant of the things that we need to do and keep everybody safe.
That's awesome. I can't wait for that to come out. So starting this Pro Series, I started about a year ago. Started really in my local Pittsburgh area and kind of reached out to real estate agents and construction workers and anybody really in the facet of home design or the home remodeling business. And I found a lot of customers that didn't quite know what to do when they're updating their homes, or they're doing what's not supposed to be done, or they're not getting the money back when they resell the home. So that's why I basically started this Pro Series. Gotten some stuff back from other people, but I kind of like getting different areas now. I had talked to people in Australia, about to talk to someone in England, Canada. So every market's different, but wanted to get some of your advice on what would you give advice to someone trying to flip a house, or they're just getting ready to sell their house. What's the biggest bang for their buck?
Well, let's break that into 2 categories, because if you're getting ready to sell your own house is a little bit different than if you're flipping.
Absolutely.
In flipping, I would tell you that from an economic standpoint, if that's your question, how do I get this done and make some money? The money in flipping is made when you buy the house. It's not made when you sell the house. The market you're in, the region, the geography of the community you're living in, or the house is in, will determine what the highest price is that you can get. You may be at the upper end of it when you're done, but that's kind of the limit. So you've got to back down from there, and the the way I back into it is, well, so I'm going to sell it for $400,000 when we're done. I'm going to have a 6% realtor fee, so let's knock off $24,000 right there. Then I've got a new roof, and that's $15,000, and I've got to paint it, and it's another $15,000, and et cetera, right down the line of things that I think are going to need to be done. And I come down to where my price is that I'm breaking even. So let's say I've got $150,000 worth of improvements to do on a $400,000 house. If I pay $250,000 for it, I'm just doing this for fun. I'm not doing it to make any money. So if it's $250,000, then I know that if I want to make 10% on my investment, I really need to knock it back down maybe $30,000 and start and buy a house at $220,000 that can sell for $400,000. So that's how I do a flip. I do the economics first. I don't fall. There's a lot of homes I've really enjoyed and loved and appreciated, but I don't really fall in love with them and think that that's the only house I've got to have. And that's what I advise flippers to do. Just look and look until you find the right buy. As far as a homeowner goes, if you're trying to resell, the things to do are obviously upgrade your bathrooms and your kitchen. And you can try to do some things sometimes. If your kitchen isn't too dated, you can reuse the cabinets, repaint them, put granite down, put new hardware on, and really fancy them up that way a little bit and make them look acceptable. But if it's questionable, then you really got to go to the expense of really updating the kitchen. If there's a wall that can be removed, that's not a structural wall, just a separating wall, then I might consider that if that was necessary, because that's not very expensive. If you don't have to put beams in, re-support things, it can be done pretty easily. As far as colors, I would suggest that if you're trying to resell, you need to stick with something that is going to appeal to more people than another. I mean, pinks and purples and things like that, you turn off some clients with that sort of thing. So it used to be earth tones. Maybe it's more grays and whites now, shades of those. I see a lot more of that stuff. So that's what I would suggest is redo the kitchen, redo the bathrooms if they need it, and then make the place spotless, empty your closets. I mean, there's some things to selling a house that are about as important as fixing it up. And I learned those things when I worked for Union Carbide as a chemist or as a salesman in a chemistry world. Was they had a whole division that helped you sell houses. They had 187,000 employees back then. That was my first job out of college, and they gave you a booklet, and the one booklet said empty your closets so that they look bigger. So that's one little trick. The other one was, if you don't know how to make bread, put a pan of water on the oven, put some yeast in it, and maybe some cinnamon, and let it simmer before a person comes view the house. It reminds them of home, of grandma or mom cooking bread or making something delicious. So there are some techniques that you can help to sell a home, but you still have to make it look good. And so keep away from the, I don't know if this is the right word, but the extravagant colors, and stay with the muted colors that will appeal to more people. Fix the obvious things, make your house landscaping look good up front. Curb appeal. Oh my gosh, how important is that? You drive up to a house and you don't like it, a lot of people won't even bother going in. Yeah. Could be the best layout they've ever seen, but they won't go in.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's some great advice. Looking at houses on the market and stuff, do you see any, like, a constant mistake that most people make? I see a lot of people just putting like very expensive granite or quartz on cabinets that are about to fall apart like any day now. They kind of just like put a Band-Aid over it and try to sell their house so they could put in their description of their house that they have granite countertops. Is there anything like that?
Well, that would have probably been one of the very first things I would have said had you have asked me that. you can't dress up something that is falling apart.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. I'd rather you'd forget the granite, put in something lesser, but improve the quality of the cabinets. At least structurally, then the new owner can say, "Oh, well, I want granite."
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people anymore. I think there's so many granite houses now. I don't think that wouldn't turn me off if it didn't have granite. It would turn me off if it had bad cabinetry.
Yeah, same here.
And flooring, same thing. You know, the old shag carpet or something like that, that would turn me off.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't mind it if it was shag carpet and I knew underneath it was hardwoods that I can remake or refurbish. So I think that. I think, people want to expose their personalities in their home, but if you're trying to sell it, that's not necessarily the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's you've hit it on the head. I mean, you can go to the big box stores and you can buy tile all day long, and it looks like it came from there.
Yeah.
And so you want to redo your bathroom to spruce it up a little bit for resale? Go to a tile shop and spend an extra $100 and buy some good tile, or maybe it's more than that. I guess I'm thinking about if I do it myself. The difference between a tile on a floor and from a box store versus a quality place that has a lot of variety and can help you with some colors is so minimal. Why would you do that when you can increase the value of your home by 10 times more than that?
Yeah. A lot of people think they're fooling the buyers, but really people that aren't even in the industry could tell the difference between a tile shop store or you go to the big box store and just get the cheapest tile that they have in stock.
I agree. I have a question for you, Eric. I was looking at your website and you went to college and got a degree in interior decorating.
Yep.
Pennsylvania State, was it?
Yeah, I went to IUP. It's Indiana University of Pennsylvania for interior design.
So I don't know that I told you my whole history, but I got out of college, went to work for Union Carbide for 8 or 9 years, knew I wanted to be in business for myself, went to work for a company that was bankrupt as president, took it over, learned how to turn around bankrupt business, and spent the next 10 years doing bankruptcy acquisitions and turnarounds. And I had everything from a 2,700 herd dairy that we ran to a printed paperback books. If you wrote a book and you wanted it printed and it was 5,000 books or less, that was our niche. I ran 3 or 4 different trucking companies, an engine rebuilding company, a food distribution company. We took all of those over. And there was something over 30 businesses, 35. We managed to save maybe 10, 12 of them. I mean, they were bankrupt, so it's not like I broke them, but that was, so I enjoyed all that, but I've never had a job where I set out to have one career and I stayed with it. You started out knowing you wanted to be an interior decorator and you're still working in that kind of field.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
When I was little, my parents built their house, the house that they live in right now. And I kind of just went with them to those design consultations for the kitchen, the bathroom, picking out all the materials. And I just fell in love with it then and thought I wanted to be an architect up until I went to college and found out interior design was where I wanted to be. And I've never stopped loving it.
That's awesome. I admire people that can do that. I think it was the luckiest thing in the world for me that I didn't stay at any one job more than about 7 or 8 years. So everybody's different, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's great to get advice from you, just someone I look up to on TV and in the business world. Look forward to listening to more of your videos on YouTube and Instagram TV and watching Bargains Mansions with your daughter. Just thank you very much for coming on here today.
Well, thank you. If I might give a little plug.
Yeah.
Okay. I would appreciate anybody that would follow me at Ward Schraeder on Instagram, and you can do the same for Tamara on at Tamara Day. And she also has the Growing Days store, and having a huge sale. If there's anybody out there wanting to get rid of or buy some of the furniture that has been used in the houses for staging, Tamara owns an awful lot of that. It's beautiful stuff, hardly been used, and she's selling a lot of that this weekend, I guess. So,
awesome. Yeah, and go.
Letting me make that disgusting plug there for.
No problem at all. And make sure you subscribe to his YouTube page, Working with Ward, as well, so you can see each episode.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ward, and enjoy the beautiful Colorado weather.
I will, and thank you for asking me to be on your show. This is always a surprise every time somebody asks me. I just think I go to work every day and I go home and I do my thing, and I'm always surprised people want to hear what I have to say. So it's
absolutely. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
You too. Bye.